So today we're talking about Facebook. Just to get us started, how many of you have a personal Facebook profile right now? All right, maybe the better question is how many people do not have one? Not at all on Facebook. Okay, a couple people. How many people have a business page? A business page on Facebook, specifically on Facebook. Okay, so that's good. We've got what we're going to talk about today will be a little bit of both, and so we'll be ready for that. All right, real quickly, before we get to kind of the nuts and bolts that you're really interested in, let's set the stage. Why should you care about using Facebook? You've heard all about it. It's in the news every day, particularly as they raise hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. And in most cases, you or your employees are on there every day as well. So number one, web users are 51% more likely to buy from your brand if they follow you on Facebook. Now, I know all of you in here are not necessarily businesses. They're nonprofits, they're organizations. If we use the word user or customer, think of it from that perspective. So maybe they're not going to buy, but they're going to support from your brand. And they're 60% more likely to recommend you to a friend. This is from eMarketer. 70% of internet users reported trusting consumer opinions posted in social media. And web users spend 6 hours a month with social media. All right, 6 hours a month. And that's across the board. That's not just Facebook, but Facebook has a lion's share of that 6 hours. So there's a lot of time being spent here. And as Herc mentioned, yeah, this is the changing face of how business and marketing is changing. People are spending time in social media, and you're here to learn how do you capitalize on that. A couple quick facts about Facebook. Number one, over 500 million people are on Facebook. That's worldwide. They're adding about 500,000 accounts every day. All right, so when those of you who do not have a Facebook account go home tonight and add one, you'll join those ranks. There are 150 million people on mobile. And then lastly, this happened this year. They surpassed Google in traffic. Right, so think about how many times you go to Google every day. Facebook is spent more often. All right, this was pretty big. Google's been number one for 10 years probably. I mean, probably since their IPO, if not before that, long time. Just to get us on the same page, I want to talk about a couple terms. Number one, this up here is called the like button. All right, I know it says like button, it says like on it. The like buttons are used, Bob will talk about that when he actually talks about the pages. They're also used across the internet. You may have started seeing them show up. We use them on all our blog posts at Moxley Carmichael. And what it is, it's a button that when you click it, it conveys that action back to Facebook. So if I was to click that button, it would say Gavin Baker likes whatever it was, a page, a product, a picture. So it's a way that people are interacting with Facebook across the world. CNN uses them. It's a way to provide customized recommendations that you couldn't get otherwise. Another one, this is called the news feed. So when you log into Facebook, you're hit with this deluge of information, right? That is the news feed. And so it looks like this. You can say, I want the top news or the most recent news. I like information, so I often click most recent. So this is, and this is where most people are interacting. The average Facebook user has 130 friends. 130 friends, this works great. I have a lot more friends on Facebook just because I joined it when I was in college, and it was really popular to have lots of friends. It's actually really annoying at this point because there's so much information that I get that I don't necessarily even care about. So I'm sure some of you are like that. You probably will have lots of questions about like, how do I stop learning about crops and all these different things that are in Farmville or Cityville or whatever. And we can ask about, can you hit the, I'm not sure what just happened. Yes, you have a question. Mark Zuckerberg is not one of my friends because while I was in college at the same time as him, I was not at Harvard. But thank you for pointing that out. I really appreciate that. Maybe one day I can get back to Harvard. So that's the news feed. And so this is where most people interact. So getting started, we're going to talk about a couple things. And Bob's going to kind of lay out how to launch a page. So that was the overview. We're going to talk about how to launch a page, which is the basic nuts and bolts. All right, this is how we set up a Facebook page. And then the second part, I'll talk about, okay, what do I do now that I have it? How do we update it? What do we update it with? Are there apps to improve our experience, et cetera? So Bob?
I think a lot of people do have a Facebook page already set up, but the first place to go if you do not is to go to this site, this page right here. This is facebook.com/Facebook pages. And the reason you want to go here is, first of all, it's a fantastic resource of information. This is way beyond the scope of what we have to talk about today, but this is everything you want to know about a Facebook page. Paul, you asked me about this. This is your spot. Okay. Tons of stuff here to refer back to. And another reason you want to go here is every time Facebook redesigns the site, which they did back late last year, they move all the links around. And to this point, I still can't find, in the same place where it used to be, the link that says create a page. I still can't find it. I think they literally destroyed it. So this is a place that will not go away. This is going to be permanent. So make this the place that you go to start your page. Now to do that, we're going to go way down to the bottom here on the left-hand side. And we're going to literally walk through this and set one up. So at the very, very, very bottom almost, there's this link, create a page. So we're going to click that, I think. Okay, there we go. Now this brings you up to a decision that needs to be made, and that is, what kind of page are you going to do? The community pages came about because so many people were creating pages they really didn't have access to, or they weren't the official in an official capacity to do that. So they were creating pages, and that kind of messed up the system. So Facebook said, okay, we'll create this separate type of page called a community page and let people that are interested in whatever they're interested in, create a page about that. It's more like a piece of information than it is really the official anything. So it's almost like Facebook's version of Wikipedia. It's what Gavin and I were talking about the other day. We kind of want to shy away from this because in most cases, almost every case, you're going to be in an official capacity. So let's come over here to the official side. And the first thing you need to do is decide what kind of business you are and how you're going to set this up. This has implications for what information you're going to fill out on your page. But really it breaks down to this. If you're a very locally focused business, let's say you're a restaurant, and you're going to have a local clientele. You're not going to have people coming from hundreds of miles away every day to eat food at your restaurant. You're going to be more locally focused. Then you're probably going to want to check this local business. If, for example, you sell hot sauce to restaurants, you can sell to restaurants everywhere. You're more of a brand or a product. Okay, kind of how we make the distinguish those two. So if we check on local business here, it'll kind of give us a drop-down list. And we just kind of have to go through this and see exactly how we fit best. Like I said, this will have implications later. For example, if you set yourself up as a restaurant, you're going to be able to put your hours of operation in later in the information. If you say you're a website, you're not going to have hours of operation. You're not going to have that ability to put that in. So, and then the last one here is artist, band, public figure. That's almost entirely individuals. If you're a politician, or let's say you're a real estate agent, and you want to market yourself as an individual, you might want to do that instead of the other ones. But mostly the third one is just for individuals marketing themselves as that themselves. So let's drop this down, and let's just do a restaurant. And the next thing you need to decide is, what is your page name going to be? Now, in almost every case, of course, this is going to be the name of your business. The one thing you may want to think about is, let's say you own a Chick-fil-A franchise, and there are more than one franchisee in town. You may want to specifically mention your location. You may want to say, I'm the Chick-fil-A downtown Knoxville, because there may be others that you're not directly tied to, and if you just say Chick-fil-A, that means a lot of things. It could mean corporate, it could mean any Chick-fil-A anywhere, so you may want to put more of a location on it if that's an issue. In most cases, it's not going to be. So, I don't know, what kind of restaurant do we want to do? Anybody got any ideas? Snow cones. Snow cones are us. Okay. The next thing that you do, obviously, is you just check that you're the official representative of this business. You own snow cones, or you have an official capacity to do this. Next thing it's going to do is going to pop up a little thing that says, are you really, really, really sure you're official? Yes, I am. Create the page. This is it. This is our page. We've got it done. It's not very pretty, but it does exist. The first thing I want you to do when you do this, first two things. First of all, you want to upload an image. Nobody wants to see this question mark. I say it's kind of like going on a date when somebody doesn't want to let you see what they look like. if you can't see who you're actually on the date with. So we need to add a photo for this. I would encourage you to do that immediately. Do not skip over that step. That's something that needs to be done immediately. The second thing I want you to do when you first do your page, or if you haven't done it yet, is come over here and where this little thing says write something about Snow Cones R Us. Click in there, and you can say anything you want, but I would encourage you to say a one-sentence summary of what your business does. So, you know, we sell the greatest snow cones in America. Great. Okay, and I also want you to put a link to your website. The reason being, this is the first place that Facebook opened up to be searched. And so Google, we know for a fact, Facebook keeps opening up more and more parts of these pages, but this is one place we know for a fact that is available to be searched online, and Google will pick up whatever is in here and return those results in a search. So we want to put this, and we want to put the full website link. That way, when someone, and you just hit return or click outside, and it'll save it. Okay, so now they can see this. This is searchable, and you see when I put my mouse on it, this becomes an active link. If I clicked on this, we would go to that website. So those are the two things I think we need to do immediately. So if you do want to change your page, you want to edit some things or add some things, the best place to come is this link that's right under the logo that's called Edit Page. Because what this does, when you click it, it gives you kind of a dashboard of everything that you can change right here, that you can do it very quickly. So let's start up here at the very top. These kind of go from very basic to more advanced as you go down. So we start up here with Manage Permissions, and what this does, it just gives you some very, very basic decisions to make. Only admins can see this page. Let's say you're going through it, or you want to get it ready for somebody to approve it, but you don't want it available to the entire world. You can check this, and only the people that are set as administrators can see it. So you could actually set a VP or a manager as an admin if they're on Facebook, and only you two or whoever's listed to administer the page can see it. If you want to restrict it by country, you can. You just start typing in a country. I don't think that's really applicable. There's some age restrictions. If you wanted to restrict it to people over 18 or over 21, if you sell alcohol and you want to restrict it to those over 21, or if you want to call it alcohol related, and Gavin made a good point. We're kind of batting around, why is this a separate entity? And we think it's probably because in different areas, different ages are alcohol related. So that just says wherever you are, if this relates to alcohol and you're a certain age, because it knows everybody's age when they sign up, don't show them this page. Then you can say that the wall tab only shows only posts that you post, which is only posts by the page, or it can show everything. In other words, if I make a comment, it'll show that outside of the administrators. Okay, the spam filter really is kind of behind the scenes. I'm not going to mess with that. You don't really need to mess with that. The default landing tab, this is where everybody comes when they come to your page, and you can choose which one they want to come to. I think in almost every case it needs to be the wall, unless it's a custom tab, which Gavin's going to talk about momentarily. I see some that come to the info, and I guess if that's the way they want to do it, that's fine, but I think wall is where everybody's conversations are going. It's what you're talking about. It's where you're got interaction with customers. I think the wall needs to be the one in almost every case. And then here you say who can post on this thing. Users can write or post content, they can post photos, or they can add videos. So this kind of gets a little more advanced as you let people do more things. Now if you do realize one day that this is not for you, or you need to make another page, you can come and permanently delete it right here. So that's kind of your managed permissions. Then your basic information. We talked about this earlier. Based on what you choose earlier, this will be different. So because I'm a restaurant, I can put in address, city, town, zip, all the location information. I can put in a description down here, and I can also give my times that I'm open, my hours of operation. If I'd listed myself as a website earlier, which is one of the options, obviously I'm not going to have hours of operation. That's going to be all the time. I clicked here on profile picture. This is where you can, if you come in later and you decide, whoa, I don't know what I was thinking with that, I really need to change that photo, you can easily just add another one right here. What I talked about earlier about setting the thumbnail is what people see on the news feed. It's that little bitty square box, and when you click this right here, it lets you take this logo, and see what I meant about the horizontal. It makes it very hard with a horizontal logo to create a really good, for the purposes of this, I might do that right there, but you can kind of drag around on the image and decide exactly where you want it to go. Square images work much better here, and the white space will help you kind of center that in the little bitty box option that you get here. It's kind of limiting, but for now that's about all we have to work with. You can always remove your picture there too. Now for marketing, this is interesting. It's a little beyond what we're talking about here today, just kind of the basics of setting it up. But if you want to advertising on Facebook, you can find out more information about how to advertise. You can advertise either a website, a location, or you can advertise your page you just set up. You can either way. You can advertise something off of Facebook or something that is within Facebook. Telling your fans lets you upload your email contacts and then send out an email blast to that. Getting a badge and adding a like box are very related. What they do is they give you a little box or a little something you can put on a website or on a blog, something that's off of Facebook that lets people know, hey, I'm using Facebook and here's my page. This is a demo. This is from Facebook. But right here you put in where you want to go, the URL, and you just choose how wide you want it, the color scheme, light or dark. Here's your option, show faces. You can see it'll update as you do this. It'll kind of update as you go so you can see what you're going to add. Show the stream, that's all the updates. So here, that's just the basic, and then show the header. So those are the options. And then when you're finished, when you have it, when it looks the way you want it to look, you click this Get Code, and that will give you either iframe code or some more like scripting code. It just depends. Sometimes if you're using a content manager, iframe works a little better. Just depends on what you're using. So your web person will know the difference in that. Since we created this page, we are automatically listed as the administrator. There is no, you either have full control or you have no control. There is no middle ground, so make sure you trust the people that you add as administrators, because they will have complete control, just as I am right here over anything on this page. You can simply add another admin by typing in their name. If they are a friend of yours, their name will start to come up. And if you want to add another one or keep adding, you just keep clicking this Add Another Admin. It gives you different options. So that's a little something about the administrators. These apps, and Gavin's going to get into this in more detail on some more customized apps. These are just what comes with a standard page. You can set up an event, you can upload your photos, videos, you can add links. Notes is a place to add a little more information than just a small status update. Like if you had a blog post or something a little longer, a press release, you could put it in notes. In a discussion board, these are the ones that come right out of the box, and so these are the ones you have automatically. Gavin's going to talk about some custom ones that you can add later. If you do want to hook this up to your mobile phone, you can. A lot of people are using smartphones these days, so and Gavin mentioned 150 million people interact with Facebook on their mobile device, so this is becoming a bigger part. There's an iPhone app that they talk about specifically here. There's also an Android app, and as Gavin mentioned earlier, they're trying to bring those up to the same level. The iPhone app came out first, so it's a little more advanced than the Android, but they've said this year they want both of those, Android and iPhone, to be on the same exact level, so there won't be any difference soon. And you can also hook it up to your text messaging. These last two are statistics, and of course we just started this, so there's nothing here. But I would encourage you to look through this. It's a little bit beyond what we have time for today, but this is very interesting, and you can kind of see how people are interacting with your site, how many people like it. It's a graph over time and some numbers as well. And so take a look at this over time and see how people are interacting. You may want to kind of keep notes on what status updates or what you updated with, because you may see that people really latch on to photos. They really love photos. You may get a bump in traffic or a bump in viewership or interaction after you've uploaded a photo, whereas if you're just saying something about the business, that's not as important to people. So kind of pay attention to what you're doing and what gets their attention, and then you can kind of tailor your messages from that. And finally, help. This is much along the lines of what we showed first, the Facebook pages link. It's a way to ask some questions. There's a number of answers here, some top questions over here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Top questions over here, pages, just general questions here, and if you can't find the answer, you can ask a question up here. To my knowledge, this is not really staffed individually, so it's kind of it's going to search for what you're looking for. But there's some different topics over here as well, but this is just the help section you can kind of go through, and it kind of gets back to what you were saying about becoming familiar with kind of what you're doing ahead of time. The last thing I want to talk about real quick is username, and when you get over 25 fans, you can change your page to be facebook.com/snowconesorus in this case. And it's a way to just make it much more easy to understand and remember. And if you're eligible, this is check availability, just means, do you have 25 fans? Are you eligible for a username? And when you get to that point, you can put in what you want, facebook.com/whatever it is. The trick on that is, just like the page name, once you set that, that is it. It cannot be changed after you set that, after you set your username. So make sure you spell it and mean what you want to say, and you want it to be as short as possible and be to the point, because that's a big deal.
One last thing is, once you create your page, you definitely want to tell your friends. Or tell your advocates, and before you really publish it, depending how large of an organization you are, you may not want to send it to everybody. You may want to get to your 50 friends and then say, hey, we're trying to get to 100 or something like that. So when Bob was talking about inviting people, invite people to join it, and tell your office mates, tell customers. One of the things I run into the most is that people create Facebook pages and kind of think that they're going to get 1 million fans within a day. But think about how easy it was to do that. Right? We could sit here for 2 hours and create 400 Facebook pages, none of which will probably get that many fans, just because they're not going to get promotion. And so make sure you're sharing with your constituents, with your advocates, the people around you, hey, we've got this. And it needs to be consistent. So if you you've got customers. So whether you're a professional service firm like we are, or you're a sales rep, make sure you tell your customers, hey, we just launched a Facebook page. It's a great place to learn about new information from us. Here's the URL. Check it out. Would love it if you'd fan us. Something like that. We're kind of under the what now section, which is, I've got a Facebook page. I might have 25 fans. How do I get to my goal? And a quick note on numbers. Everyone here, if I asked you how many Facebook fans do you want, you would say the most I can get, right? You want the most. The bigger question is going to be, look at your competitors, if you have competitors. Identify a benchmark and say, okay, I want to get to 100. Let's work to get 100. Like we mentioned before, some of the biggest Facebook fans, 23 million, 30, they're way up there. And that's like Coke. Locally, I'll talk about a couple examples, but the best way is to say, okay, who do I serve? What am I hoping to do? How many people do I really need to get my message? Because you really want engagement. You want people to see the information you're providing, maybe respond. And if you've got 1,000 Facebook fans, but only 2 of them are actually doing anything, what are the other 998 impressions aren't really adding anything to what you're trying to accomplish. So just something to think about. All right, real quick, this is Coke. Coke's Facebook page. At the top, you can see they have a tab that says Wall, Info, Coca-Cola, Photos, Video, Discussions. You can also see down here that they have 21, this was last week, so they probably have more than this, almost 22 million people on Facebook. This is the largest company on Facebook. There are actually individuals that have more than this. And what they've done is they've created custom tabs for every beverage. Diet Coke has a page, Coca-Cola has a page, Coke Zero has a page, because the brands are all different. They all have different identities. They all have different words they use. And so right here this is actually a video that plays. And then you've got, find us on Twitter, MySpace, YouTube, and Flickr. And these are just basically how you can interact with us. And then down here, these are pictures that Coke allows people to upload to their Facebook. And so this right here is, people, those are snow coupled, I guess. I'm not sure what that is, but, and they allow it. So that's one way of doing it. Another one is Starbucks. Now, this was actually taken after Starbucks had released their new logo. For whatever reason, they have not globally rolled it out, and they have not changed it. For those that did not know, Starbucks has removed the Starbucks coffee from around their logo because they're going global. So don't use English if you're going global. So right here, their big push right here has been their Starbucks rewards, or my Starbucks rewards. So they're pushing that here. Hey, you can give a gift. Give a gift on Facebook, get started, manage your card. It's a different push. This is actually how most people are probably going to use it. The Coca-Cola example is probably a little bit too extreme for most people. But at the top, they have multiples. They've got events. They've got around the ... probably around the world if I had to guess. And then Moxley Carmichael, this is ours. What we do is since we are a PR company, we use it to promote everything that we're doing kind of locally or our clients are doing. So all of these are going to be releases that our clients are doing, or a blog post that we've done or Cynthia's done. So that's how we update it. One thing to note is that once someone likes your page, they default to the wall, regardless. Required. That's what Facebook's rule is. It's only the initial tab only matters if they haven't liked it yet. So like if I was a fan of Coca-Cola, I could get to that tab, but I would not be able to see it initially. I would get taken to the wall where 1 million people every day are saying, I love Coca-Cola for whatever reason. So that's what they're saying. So this is a little bit of a survey I did a couple weeks ago, which was kind of a showdown on Market Square. Which Market Square company, restaurant, has the most Facebook fans? And these are all pages. So the blog post I wrote, I talked a little bit about Oodles earlier. Well, Oodles doesn't have a Facebook page, so they're not really included. And this probably doesn't surprise any of you, but the Tomato Head is the clear winner with over 4,000 fans. Since I wrote it, Latitude 35 has jumped up to over 1,000. Cafe 4 is probably right around where it was. Trio and Coco Moon. So these are kind of how people are using it. And I don't have a screenshot of Tomato Head, but one of the things that they do, is anybody in here a fan of Tomato Head on Facebook other than me? Does anybody else work on Market Square? No, okay, guess that's us. Well, what they do really, really well is they update their specials. So Tomato Head has their daily specials and they have their board outside. They've transitioned that to online and they talk about their special every day. Hey, our daily special is X. Come in and get it. It's here. And then even though they have 2 locations, they've got the Maryville location and the one here in town, they just do two separate line items. They say the Maryville special is this, the Knoxville special is this. And that keeps people engaged. And they responded to the blog post and said, thanks for highlighting our community. We really appreciate and value them. So and Tomato Head is a very special restaurant, but they really care about their online community. And it works. A couple weeks ago when we had all that snow, our office is right across Market Square. And we were working, and nothing was open. Like 0 was open. And I don't really take food from home very often and eat it at the office or even have food at the office. I kind of always go out. And so I'm sitting in my office thinking, I am starving. What can I do? And about that time, the Tomato Head actually sent an update that said, it's snowy, but we're open. Come on in. And I went in and got lunch. And so I probably wouldn't necessarily have gone to Tomato Head that day. I probably would have walked out to Market Square and said, okay, I probably would have thought about it first before I walked out. But then, so I didn't freeze. But that's what drew me in. And so Facebook marketing doesn't have to be necessarily this huge thing. It can be stuff like that. And it wouldn't surprise me if they got 10, 15 people that day, and just because of that. So, and you can drive it to any action. So let's keep going. What can you talk about? You can talk about photos. So you can do photos of products, events, staff. So if you are a company that you put on events, you have open houses, or you have fundraisers, or really grand openings, anything like that, you can definitely create a Facebook event, invite people to it. Then you could put photos up afterwards as an album to say, hey, this is where we were, and you can tag people. So if we had an open house and we had people over, and 10 of you guys came and we were excited about that and we knew all of you, we would tag you in those photos. So what would happen is if I tagged Bob in a photo, it would then say in his friend's newsfeed, Bob Wilson was tagged in this photo. It would show the photo, which would drive them to our Facebook page. Very easy to do. And it can also be a good way to put pictures of your staff up if that's something you're interested in doing. You can do links to resources. Depending on what your organization is, you can share information about, maybe it's an article you read that was applicable to what you guys do. Maybe it's if you have if you're like a Mr. Fix-It, you want to post a link to a video that was helpful. It can be anything. You can also do commentary. This is something we push with a lot of our clients to say, hey, you're a thought leader in your industry. Why don't you create a blog post and post it on Facebook and share that information? And then coupons and offers. This one is probably the most widely used, but it's not the only option you have. You can talk about lots of things. And the updates, when I say update, I mean the status update. The text and picture, I think it's 250 characters maybe. Maybe it's 400 characters. It's a short amount. You can't really write a book. But you do the coupons and offers. And so if you're a small enough page, you don't have a ton of people, which is completely fine. You may just want to say, all right, then the next 100 people that come in that say, I love snow cones, will get a free snow cone. Or you can say, it's probably going to be a phrase, or it might be a picture that you upload to an album that's a coupon. Those aren't necessarily the recommended ways to go about doing it, but they can be effective. And last thing you can do is ask questions. One of the things I always say is the content you use in social media, Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is, you want it to be about 80% we and about 20% me, right? So we and me. Because as much as I love your organization, I certainly don't love it as much as you do, but I love me, right? Everyone likes to hear about themselves, ask questions. And so Facebook, Tomato Head's a great example of that. And they are not a client, by the way. They just do a good job. They ask questions. Hey, what's everybody think about Knoxville? How's the snow? Lots of questions that engage their audience. That engagement creates traffic. Ultimately, people want to go to Tomato Head because they're top of mind because they've been asking questions. So it can be hard to ask questions, but that's the best way to do it. Now, here's a trick. The scary thing about asking questions is, what if no one answers, right? A lot of you have thought about that. So a great way to, I guess it's really just a trick. Ask the question, then email 15 people and say, hey, I asked this question. Do you have a thought on it? Do you have an answer? Would you go share it on our Facebook page? That engagement will then get other people to engage. And so that's how it starts. So if you go to some of these places, some places just by the nature of what they do, engagement happens, right? Questions get answered because they're so yes, no, I have a thought on this. Sometimes you don't. And sometimes you have to, it's not forcing it, it's not cheating, it's just reminding people, it's like, hey, I've got this here, I'd love your thought. I do that when I blog. If I blog, Blob and I blog on at Moxley Carmichael called The News Streak. It's about digital media. And if I've got a post that I think some people might have some interesting perspective on, well, I know that in their daily feed of the 5,000 people they follow on Twitter and there are 1,000 friends on Facebook, they may not see it. So I might send them a note and say, hey, would love your thoughts on this. And then all it takes for them is to click it, read it, and write a response if they want to do that. So that's a good way to kind of cheat the system. All right, so some of you are thinking, okay, I got to post a status update, I got to post a picture. Does Gavin know that I have a job that, and I don't have a budget to pay someone else to do that? And so, yes, I'm very aware of that. And so what I would recommend is that there's a little product called Hootsuite. And some of you are probably already familiar with it. If you're not, Hootsuite is a tool that you can see here that allows you to do lots of things. The most important one for this conversation is schedule. So every morning, if you're a business owner, you might say, okay, these are the 7 things I want to say on Facebook today. I want to say this one at 8 o'clock. I want to say this one at 10 o'clock. I want to say this one at noon, 4, and 8. And you create them, and you schedule it, and you go about your day. Now, the thing there is you do need to make sure you check in so that you can engage with whatever's happening. If you're asking a question, you need to respond to the question. So you need to make sure someone's monitoring it, but you don't necessarily have to be thinking, okay, let me get out that email or let me write that question right now so I can sit here and respond. So that's, and Hootsuite is free up to a certain number of accounts. I think it's 5, and then they have a pro version. So, but Hootsuite, H-O-O-T suite.com. And if you're on Twitter, or even Facebook, they use it's called the URL shortener, which basically just takes big links and makes them shorter. Their shortener is Owly, like owl with Y on it, because I think that's that little guy's name. I'm not really sure, but so if you see that, they're using Hootsuite. Very, very good alternative. Just a little disclaimer here. I'm about to show some very, very adorable puppies and cats. So if you're just be careful, all right? So Young Williams Animal Center is one of our clients, and they use Facebook amazingly well. They have about 5,000 people. Young Williams, for those of you who don't know, is kind of the pet center for all of the pets and all of the strays and found animals in Knoxville. So this is a status update they put up, I think right after Christmas, that said, there are only a few of our adoptable dogs and puppies. See more photos of adoptable dogs and puppies at knoxpets.org. And then they put up 21 new photos of puppies that can be adopted. And then Laura Potts, who works at PetSafe, Susie Waltrata, who's presenting in a couple weeks, Ellen Robinson, who works for us, and 544 other people liked these pictures. And then 56 people commented, which basically said things like, I want the middle one, or they're so adorable, I can't wait, or I love my pets from Young Williams. These people are super engaged with Young Williams on Facebook. And one of the interesting things is that this is basically 600 people that have advocated to all their friends on Facebook that about something that they posted on their wall. So I'm friends with Susie and Ellen and Laura and maybe some of these 450 people. It's possible that I would have seen all those updates from them that said they liked these things. So I would have seen them. So this is kind of a great example of how things can spread. Now, granted, not all of you probably have things like this. You don't have puppies and cats that need to be adopted, right? I mean, that's just kind of this is a ringer to show, but it's a great example of kind of how it can work. Another thing you can do, this is Young Williams still. Young Williams, because they're a nonprofit, has limited resources. And so this is something that happened around that same time. And they sometimes name their quotes. And so this is from Taylor. Can you pick up donations for the animal center? Target on Clinton Highway has items that needed to donate, and they need to picked up ASAP. A truck or minivan should do the trick. Email me directly. You've got 7 comments, things like this. Taylor, don't forget about me. I live next door to Target and Kroger and Powell. Email me anytime, right? So they're volunteers, people that just have bought a pet there and love it, are advocating for them. And there are 7 other comments that do the same kind of thing, or people will say, hey, I've got a chain link fence that we're not using anymore. It's for a dog kennel. Do you guys want it? I'd be happy to bring it by. This is a way for their fans to really engage with them. And it's not just because most of those people, that guy's probably thinking, okay, I can either email them, call their 1-800 number, try to get someone on the phone, get transferred around, or maybe I can just post it to their Facebook and see what happens. If they respond, that's great. If not, I'll recycle it. You know, you want to make it super easy, and that's what Facebook does. Very, very easy to communicate with people. It can be annoying. I was talking with the gentleman earlier who, like him, I hate when people use Facebook messages in lieu of email, right? I'm on my phone all day. Facebook messages annoy me just a little bit because it's not part of my workflow. I can't respond from my email. But for a lot of people, when they're on here, it's a great way to communicate. And here's one last story. This was actually just January 10th. From Taylor. This is another way they use it to save animals' lives. Transport needed. We need to get Darling Bunny, the bull terrier, to Cookville by 4 p.m. on Wednesday. If we do, she can meet up with another rescue transport. Bunny came to us in very rough shape. She is now a vision of beauty and is ready to move on. If you ... can help, please let us know. And 4 people liked it, and there were a number of comments below it as well. Let's talk about apps. So on Facebook, you can have apps just like an iPhone or an Android phone has apps. They're not the same apps that are on those, but you can install an app to your Facebook page and even your profile. And so we're going to talk about that. And this is pretty much the upper echelon of like Facebook usage. So it won't apply to all of you today, especially if you don't have a page, but these are some really good tools. So what you can do is apps really just enhance kind of the basic functions, but they can do a lot of stuff. So they can showcase your photos with effects. So maybe instead of just showing photos like that album, maybe you want to have more of like a video slideshow that as they click through it does fun things. You can do that. You can play enhanced videos. So Facebook allows you to upload a video and it'll play it in the stream. Well, it only moves it to like 400 pixels wide. Maybe you want it to take an enormous, just this giant video. Well, that's another way to do it. You can offer sweepstakes. Going back to kind of the question earlier about using Facebook's likeness, they're very, very, probably even hypersensitive about sweepstakes being offered on Facebook without what they consider approval, which sounds really scary. There's an app that will give you approval automatically. You just have to pay for it. It really applies to really big brands. But sweepstakes are a place where Facebook is very, very hesitant to get their name involved. And so they want to make sure you're cleared by all kinds of things. So you use an app for that. And I can't believe I just used the phrase, there's an app for that. Awesome. And then coupons and offers. And share files. If you wanted to share files, you had a PDF you wanted to upload, any kind of file other than a photo. So we talked briefly about tabs earlier, and that's what we're going to dive into. And so Pilot is one of our clients, and so Pilot actually really believes in social media. They have a social media manager. Her name is Lindsay Kaler, and so she actually handles all these things. We just advise her on some of it. So I'm just going to share about a little bit what she does. So this right here is called the Coupon app, and it's from a company I'm going to talk about in a second. And so if you go to Pilot's Facebook page, you will see this coupon, and you can print it, and you can use it at any Pilot travel center. So don't try to use it at all the Pilots around here that are not travel centers because they don't work. But that's not really the point. You could go to Level Road. The point is that this is a way that they've had this up for probably almost a year at this point, maybe. And this is just a way to drive their Facebook fans. And they're up to, it's not down there, I think they're up to like 30,000 maybe, or 40. There we go, 41,000. So we're already a friend of theirs. So we had to click this. What they do is almost all these apps allow you to, Facebook is very, again, particular how things are worked. But they can, basically, you can hide content from someone who's not a fan. You can't require them to become a fan to get something, but you require them a fan to see something, right? Very small difference in words, but very important to them. And so what this actually happens is when you go to this, it says click like above to get the free coupon. And so you click like, it actually just switches the photo out, and all of a sudden you see a new one, and you can use it. So yes, this is done with an app. A company called Involver. Let's see how that goes. It is not free. Disclaimer, almost everything we're going to talk about until I'm done talking about apps are not free. They cost a little bit of money to lots of money. But we're going to stay towards the little bit of money side of that equation. This is a little bit of money. Most of them are done monthly, month-to-month subscriptions. I'm not sure how much Involver is, maybe $50 a month. The equations they use now are number of fans put you into tier, right? So it's not $50 a month for Pilot anymore because they've got 30,000 fans. It's probably, I don't even know what their tier is. It might be $400 a month, who knows? Because they're basically saying the more people that are using it, the more benefit you're receiving. And so like if Coke, for example, wanted to use this app, right, it's probably gonna cost Coke a lot of money. But they're probably also gonna just make their own because they've got 31 million fans, and they're very invested. So you're kind of caught in the middle.
What's the name of that?
Involver, and I'll talk about it in just a second too. Another one that they do, Pilot's big push is coffee. They've got tons of blends, and so this is actually a whole page just about coffee, the different types of coffee they have. And it honestly doesn't do anything other than just say the coffee name with a picture and what it is. So talking about apps, I talked about promotions earlier. Wildfire is an app, for lack of a better term, company. And what they do is, what they say, they help you get more leads. And so we've used them, and brands across the board use them, to manage campaigns for sweepstakes. Actually did a campaign with Cherokee Distributing in the fall that allowed us to use this. And so, like I said before, you're kind of chancing it if you run the sweepstakes without their approval. What this app allows you to do is you buy it for a certain amount of time. So you pick the type of sweepstakes you're going to do, the length of time you're going to run it, and it gives you a total. So it's like, it might be $10 to start plus $1.50 a day. And so you do it for 14 days, and so all of a sudden you have a total. And what they've got is essentially the right to run sweepstakes like this on Facebook from Facebook. So as a small business owner, you probably couldn't get approval because you wouldn't be able to talk to somebody. When I was at Ruby Tuesday, we ran a promotion. And so when you're big enough, you actually have to have an ad buy normally to accompany it. So it's like, hey, you want to do a promotion? That's great. Promotions on Facebook are free, but you might need to spend $50,000 on advertising to support the cause, kind of a thing. And it's effective because they want them to be the promotions to be helpful, and so you buy ads. But you have to get your promotion completely approved at that point by them. This makes all that super easy. And so you could, if you ran a promotion for a week, it's probably going to cost you $20. So if it's worthwhile, you might want to try it, because you can also require someone to become a fan when you do it. You can showcase all kinds of information. So that's Wildfire. I think the website is wildfireapp.com, but they do it for Facebook and Twitter as well. Involver was the other one I mentioned. That's what Pilot uses or has been using. And so all kinds of brands use them as well. And we're not really going to talk about what they do, but they kind of have a number of apps that I talked about. They do lots of different apps that are built to do slideshows and coupons and welcome tabs and a number of things. Another one, which might be the best bet for most of you guys, is something called North Social. They've got 15 apps. And if you're a small enough company, it's going to be like $15 a month. And you can have access to all of them. Same with Involver. You can have access to all of them at a certain price point. And so this can be a great way if you're trying to drive signups, trying to drive just increasing your Facebook page. Maybe you want to tell everyone who comes there something. You can kind of create this custom page and go through that. And so, like I said, not necessarily always the best fit for everybody. But if it's something you're interested in, it's something where Facebook is kind of already starting to pay off for you. Most brands on Facebook have a welcome tab of some kind. It basically just allows you to kind of think of it as your homepage. It's that first impression that you want to control. And so maybe it's telling someone, hey, make this happen. You can do whatever you want with it, really. And it's just a graphic. So, and there are also other ways to do this. The apps are just going to be the easiest for most of you. If you're super technically inclined, you can build it yourself. Or if you have friends that are super technical, that are already designed websites, they can do these apps. They won't build an app, but they can do kind of the behind the scenes work that would make a photo show up or a specific sign up form. So just to reiterate, Facebook matters to you today. You launched your page, and now you engage with your fans. So that's pretty much all we've got. We got a little bit of time for questions. His question was, we talked about having a blog, we talked about having a Facebook news feed. Do they compete? And the answer is no. Blogs are long form content for the most part. So 200, 300, 400 words. Facebook is going to be 400 characters, right? So you're talking about a couple sentences. So normally the way we would use it, or even I use it personally, is when I update my blog, it will either have it manually update or automatically update or all manually update and say, new post about XYZ, go check it out. Include the link, and then that will drive traffic to it. The problem you get this splitting of the comments. So some people will comment on Facebook, some will comment on your blog, but that's kind of the name of the game at this point. His question basically said that he works for someone that has a Twitter account, and they also have Facebook, and a person was in the job previously, and they thought the two things were essentially the same, right? So you post I love cheeseburgers to Facebook, and you also post I love cheeseburgers to Twitter, and you do it 15 times a day probably, based on your comment. Versus saying I love cheeseburgers on Facebook, and then saying, and I really love cheeseburgers with fries on Twitter, but not doing it at the same ratio of they're exactly the same. That's an interesting thing, and Bob and I actually may differ on this. Personally, if you are friends with me on Facebook, my Twitter feeds to my Facebook. So there's a little bit different there, but I Twitter a lot. And so I don't really have time to do dual posting. The only time I'll post on Facebook is if I want to utilize one of the mechanisms that Facebook allows. So I want to tag someone. So I want to say, just saw Rachel at the chamber event. Well, I need to actually use Facebook to do that because I can't do that through Twitter unless she's on Twitter, but then it doesn't actually link on Facebook. So you kind of have this problem. There'll be an app one day that's created to do the two of them probably, but Facebook and Twitter actually are not really friends, so they may not. So I'm a big believer in doing the same thing. That's me personally. In terms of the frequency, I think at least once a day is a good thing to do. If you actually have an active community, people are engaging with you, it's going to end up in more than that. In terms of the other part of that was, say you post something and it gets a ton of feedback, right? So it's the Young Williams example that had 544 people that liked it. Well, you post other things that are similar to it because people like it. So they're not going to they probably won't get bored unless it's some kind of like hyper political statement or something that is really just more of a flash in the pan versus an ongoing. It's really a gold mine. If you can find out what engages with people, that's a great way to get started. And another way to think about that is when I was at Ruby Tuesday, we launched our Facebook page with like 2,500 people. And the goal was I had a schedule. Okay, I'm going to post this different types of content. I'm going to post a recipe one day. I'm going to post an update. I'm going to post a picture. I'm going to post a video. I'm going to post a customer review. And let's see which of those actually activate with people. And then when we see that, then we'll kind of trend that way. We'll weight our responses. Because if you always post videos and never responds to videos, but every time you post a picture, people go nuts, well, then you should probably stop posting videos. I mean, unless you hear anecdotally, hey, love that video, just didn't want to like it on Facebook. Who knows? So, but Bob will have a different answer probably.
Yes, I will. No, not to be completely different, but when I looked at my Twitter and my Facebook, I found two separate audiences. You may or may not find the same. I decided that I did not want the two connected because the people I had on Twitter were more, I didn't really know them as well. They were more, whether it's professional or whether it's just because of the topics, different group than the people on Facebook who do know me personally. So the things I was posting, which are more industry, business related on Twitter, just weren't translating over to the personal messages on Facebook. So I started using an application called Selective Twitter that's on Facebook. And if I want this Twitter message to go to Facebook, I just put the little pound symbol and FB for Facebook at the end of it, and it pushes it to Facebook. But I do that very rarely because I just keep the two separate, just a different, mentality. As far as what works, the first thing that came to mind is kind of baking a cake. If you want it, you got different things in the cake. If you want it sweeter, you're going to add more sugar. So you find what's working. You don't just go all sugar. You start to mix in a little more. So like Gavin said, if photos start to work better, just mix in a few more of those, maybe drop off the ones that those updates that are not getting the response, add in the ones that are, but kind of keep a mix. I wouldn't go all the way with it.
Great benchmark organizations are going to be Coca-Cola, Starbucks, right? They're so well past what most people are going to create in Knoxville. But because of that, they've actually put a lot more thought into it than a lot of people have, right? So they've got teams of people. Millions of dollars are essentially, think of it that way, millions of dollars are advising every single update they make. So they're putting a lot of thought into it. Sometimes, and Starbucks is incredibly casual for what they do, and they're very responsive. So last fall, 2 falls ago actually, Starbucks put out a coupon on I think it was actually on Facebook, but I got it on Twitter, that was like free coffee day. I'm not even sure it was. And I said to them, hey, can I use this on my phone on Twitter? And they responded, same day. That morning, actually, I said, yeah, you should just show your manager the phone. If not, tell them this coupon code. So it's like they're very responsive because that's what they do. So Starbucks, let's think. Local examples, Tomato Head really does a good example. Latitude 35 does a decent job at it. Who else?
I was just at a high level, I think the Cokes and the Starbucks are at a very high level, like Gavin said. They've got millions of dollars. They've got teams that are working on this. That's kind of the ultimate that can be done. So I think that's a level at which you can watch and see kind of who's pushing the envelope would be those people. Then you've got another layer, more local, even your competitors. Like Gavin mentioned, if you're a restaurant, you could watch those restaurants that are listed, see what they're doing. That to me is another level that the people you're directly either competing or you want to be like them or they do a good job in their industry, what are they doing? So I think there maybe are a couple of different levels that you could watch other companies and see what they're doing. That's the way I would approach it.
Is there anybody else in here that people like, that they think do a good job? You could just yell them out if so. Paleos. Other than Young Williams Animal Center? The YMCA, maybe the YWCA. Yep. Big Brothers Big Sisters. CARM. United Way. I think we're just naming nonprofits at this point. So if anybody else, if you've got one you want to name, go ahead, shout it out. But so I think that kind of answers. Ultimately, it's really easy to follow and unfollow people both on Facebook and on Twitter. So follow a bunch of people, see what happens. You'll get used to it. You're like, okay, I'm not handling this. I don't want any more updates about, say it's Tomato Head. I hate the daily special. I don't live downtown. I don't live in Maryville. I like the Tuscan chicken sandwich when I'm downtown once a year. I don't want any more updates, right? So I mean, you'll get a feel for it, but definitely just start by following some people.